Yeah, so we're just going to be playing through Ether 1. So yeah, this is the first time we've loaded up the original Ether 1 that we released in UDK on Steam back in 2014. So this will be like reliving some memories. It should be fun to get into.
Ether 1 is a game in which you play as a restorer, who is a person who is able to go into the memories of a patient and fix them. The actual story really is about dementia and living with someone that has dementia, dealing with them, and the emotional sort of process that you go through.
We're on the 10-year anniversary of Ether 1. We first released it back in 2014. Now, 10 years on, it's just incredible to even just go back to it, see all the decisions we made, maybe some of the decisions that we might not make.
You look at it, you look at screenshots of it, and you go, do you know what, that is actually really lovely looking still to this day, because we didn't chase fidelity or anything. I think the team was really smart in terms of what they did visually, like for such a small team at the time as well. And I think that's actually stuck with them as they've gone through the games. They've definitely like crafted their own art style and carried on with that.
I'd say we got lucky because the guys who all met at university, one thing that we saw in each other was like, we were really passionate about this. Each had a kind of a different discipline within developing a game. I think we got lucky in that fact that we all had different areas that we could then work together to complement each other and develop something.
It does seem to be having a legacy, and we still get really nice messages about it. And some people saying that the music had changed their life, and I've felt that way about other people's work. It's that kind of thing where even if it only got to one person, it's like, wow, something you did once actually had an effect on somebody.
I was a reboot developer in Croatia, and I was stood there, and somebody came up to me, and they kind of tapped me on the shoulder, and they went, "You worked on Ether 1?" And I went, "Yes." And they went, "It's our favourite game of all time." Yes. And I was like, okay, this is weird, like in the middle of like, no, it's like absolutely like proper fanned out about Ether 1. For whatever reason, when they played the game, it was that emotional impact for where they ever were in their lives, and it's just the game. You know, you get those games that stay with you for whatever reason. There's this couple. Ether 1 was that kind of title, yeah, so which was really awesome.
So I'm playing the game, and I think the only time I played it was on the PS4.
Right?
And I got the platinum. I think it's the
okay.
I've got on because I knew I was it.
Should we say who we are and if we worked on it at all?
Basically outing the people that didn't work on it.
I'm Nicola, I didn't work on the game.
Yeah, I didn't work either. I'm Rob.
You playtested the game, didn't you?
I did playtest the game, yeah. When was that? 2013?
Will have been, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so playtested the game. I don't even know what state the game was in at that time. Don't remember.
Broken.
Well, I'm sure I played the whole game. Because I was there for like half a day or something.
Yeah, because Vicky also was there. Yeah. And yeah.
I remember writing notes down in a little notepad and then handing them off to Pete.
And then they went straight into a paper shredder.
Straight into the drug. What do you know?
Well, so Pete and I met at university. I didn't do a degree in games development. I did a degree in animation, actually, at the University of Central Lancashire. And through one chance or another, I ended up going on to do the Masters in Games Design. And that's where I met Pete for the first time. So it was like an 18-month kind of course that we were kind of working on. And throughout that, we just, built a friendship up, kind of talking to each other about games development.
We were kind of looking at our different options within the industry. We were thinking, should we go into more AAA game development? And it was actually one of my friends at the time, Aaron Foster, who had a studio called Luna Software, who are developing a game called Routine. He actually said, well, I'm working on this game, and it's just, a small indie game. And I'd never really seriously considered that as a trajectory. I actually had been offered a pretty good mid-level design job out of my master's degree. But he was also working on other people's ideas. And I thought, if I'm ever going to do something like this, now would be the time to actually undertake it.
something in us, and whilst we were speaking as kind of friends, decided that we really wanted to do independent work and we wanted to do something kind of ourselves. And I can't quite remember the conversation. It must have been like an instant messaging kind of convo that we were kind of having, and it kind of ended up, well, do you want to do something? You know, we've got these ideas, and that's kind of what's kind of started our, I guess, kind of journey with White Paper Games. White Paper Games was called Journey Games at one point, I think, you know, and it was very much us just figuring it out, and we'd obviously never done anything like that before. It was a really fruitful time. I think the indie boom had just really taken off, you know, Braid had come out, and there was real like spirit of doing new stuff and experimental stuff.
So I think one thing I was thinking when we first loaded up the game, because it was the first game we had shipped as a team, we literally started the game on a black screen with no title music or anything. And then the first thing you see is like mislit doors. It's just that first 30 seconds, it's just things you miss.
It was hard to know what to do with those now.
Yeah. But I mean, this still holds up.
Before people make fun of my inability to play this, there is a fair bit of delay between you moving and this turning, so...
Like, even that old text.
I mean, oh yeah, I mean...
Yeah, it's
Pete,
crazy.
we're gonna not be happy with a lot of this.
The head bob's strange as well. It's like sway.
It's quite a lot, yeah.
Yeah, so when we were first making the game, all those computer display screens, they used to have a picture of Phyllis who's talking to you there. And we also even contemplated making Gene at a certain point of the game where it would have been cool to see Gene, but yeah, we just decided stylistically against it. We didn't officially become a studio until 2012, around that time period, but it was just very much just bedroom development, spare room in the house, just headphones on and just really working on this thing that we brought into life called Ether 1. But even the game concept changed quite a few times. We didn't really know what we wanted the game to be. And I also was working part-time at Starbucks. Not full-time, maybe 30 hours a week, but then also trying to get this studio off the ground and get the game off the ground. I didn't perceive it as tough at the time. It was just what I felt like I needed to do. It was very much just shut off all other avenues. Even on your personal life side of things, it's just like, just focus on this one thing.
We were kind of just experimenting with a number of ideas. And people might remember this better than I do, but we were doing a puzzle game at the time, and there was like Aztec themes, and we were just trying to build something with the tools that we had. And you know, we were scripters, so we were utilising Kismet at the time to kind of build systems and kind of how do we interact with the kind of world. And we built a number of kind of different kind of ideas, and we had different story ideas that we were exploring. There was one very early idea which was more science fiction than Ether 1 ended up being, which was about exploring memory and the memories of, I think it was that you were inside, again, it might not be quite correct, but you were inside a kind of a computer repository of someone's memory, and you were kind of exploring those kind of ideas and those puzzles in there, and you know, interaction. And a lot of this was like paper design and early prototypes in Unreal, and just started exploring different kind of concepts. And then that started to slowly coalesce into a kind of vision of some kind, and we knew we were inspired by games like Myst and other kind of puzzle games at the time, like Dear Esther, I think, had just come out, and so there was a lot of the idea of the walking sim and kind of story-driven titles that weren't all action-oriented, was something that we knew we could do. You know, we were kind of interested in that. I'd learned how to screenwrite on the animation course that I'd done, and I'd done a lot of obviously study into how does story work with video games during my kind of masters. And Pete's level design and game design work was, you know, incredible, and just started combining those things together.
Very, very quickly we found Oliver, who was a 3D artist, and he joined the team pretty quickly. And then also Oliver was living with James. They were both studying at the university on the bachelor's course, and so, you know, James jumped on board, started helping, and then NJ was working with James on an iOS game as part of the university. So we kind of made that connection, and then slowly the development team started building.
The first time I met him, I was, I think, a second year at Bradford Animation Festival, and my lecturer had organised, they bought us tickets if we wanted to go, and so Rhoda told me, hey, you need to meet Pete Bottomley, who's a master's student, and he'll give you your ticket when you get there. And that was the first time I met Pete. He gave me a ticket. After that, while I was in class, I used to see him hanging around. And I think I was working on some rocks that I was making for one of my projects. And as he walked out of the office, he saw my stuff and he said, "Hey, like, those are really cool. Maybe I can buy them off you for the game." And I just said, like, off the hand, like, "Oh, you can have them for this game that I'm working on." Like, we had a discussion. Kind of, he showed me about the game that they were thinking about doing, and at that time it was a whole different thing, because it was the super beginning days of the conception. So this is the grass I've made for the train simulator, and hopefully it'll be able to work with Ether. It's very subtle right now, but if I change the properties of this to a strength of 5, for example, as you can see, the grass is swaying in the wind. And then I was friends with OJ through a friend of my year. Started living with him when he was doing his master's degree and I was in my 3rd year.
I was working in my master's degree. I was just trying to really understand hand-painted texturing and like modeling. I wanted to be an environment artist so much, but my skill set wasn't strong enough. So I remember I spent one Christmas like really focusing on this Blizzard sword and shield tutorial, and I just like spent the whole Christmas doing it, and I ended up with a really kind of good result in the end. And I remember coming into to UCLan and showing Pete, and I remember him thinking, "Oh, this guy can do a bit of artwork." And from that, he got me connected with him and Ben, and I made some kind of test textures and meshes, and I was still so green. I'd never even built like a full environment before. Met Pete in that room, and he kind of said, "Do you want to do a little bit of stuff for me and my friend?" And in that room was James and NJ, and everyone was kind of in that room but not really connected at that time. And I just started doing work that way and stumbling along the way and making a lot of mistakes, building multiple modular kits, which is like a kit that you build to build out a world that failed. And I think it was really crucially important to go through that process.
So I was at UCLan University on the experimental audio, experimental music degree. My idea back then in uni was I wanted to work on everybody's project, and I worked on indie films, games, animations, just every single department that wasn't mine that needed audio. Tried to make myself the person that people knew. I made friends with James on the games team. I went and sat down and started talking to him, and it was a bit of an awkward conversation because James said they already had music and sound. They had somebody already set up to go. And they said, "Well, sit down and I'll show you what it is anyway, but we probably don't need you." And then looked at it and it was really cool. And it was this little iOS game called Cotton Pops, and it was just really first game I ever worked on. And I said to him, "I'll tell you what, I'm going to go home anyway and I'm going to make music for it. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't." And when I got home, I'd written the whole thing and I just needed to literally lay it out. Sent it to James, and he said he and OJ were like, because they were flatmates at the time, they were dancing around their flat listening to it. And then I got a phone call off him, and the other people were kind of umming and ahhing about whether they were going to do it. So they just said, "Use me." And that's where that kind of relationship started. And then as Ether was in conception and like, we need an artist, we need not an animator, tech artist, all those types of things, well, they needed audio as well. And I was the person they knew. So my plan of like working on 20 things paid off for the one thing that kind of went somewhere, and that's literally how it all started for me.
So this was actually the first room that we made as part of this version of Ether 1. If anyone remembers the second Ether 1 trailer, the kind of proper trailer called Restorer, this whole room was like a restoration in Ether 1 that we put in the Restorer trailer. So if you turn around, James, 180, like that was all in the Restorer trailer. So that was where we first did the first experiment for a restoration, wasn't it, I think?
Sebastian, do you have the answer?
Yes, I found him.
Then secure the neural pathway.
Give me a moment.
Get hold of him. Don't you dare lose him again.
I can see him. I just can't get a knock on him.
felt bad to get rid of it after we'd done something on it as well.
And it just didn't make sense in the game, so we removed it.
Yeah, there's a crispness to this that I quite like, and like the lights have impact on the scene. I think when we moved over to UE4, we had like a year to work with a brand new engine and old lighting system that worked really well with an art style with a completely new lighting setup. And I think we've lost a little bit of it in the Redux. Like it feels a little darker, not as contrasty, but it's just nice to revisit the old version.
One thing to note is that like we had no experience or anything doing rigging. And these arms were just literally they're just skeletons. There's no actual rig to it. There's a skeleton, and I animated them, but I didn't even know because you can't like zero out joints. Like I didn't even know you could do it. So I literally wrote down on a notepad every sort of like base value, and we animated it like that, like on a notepad, writing it down. NJ, I was like NJ. X is 35.681. Literally, like one by one doing all of it because we just didn't know.
So Whiskers asked the question: is there anything you wanted to ship with that didn't make the cut that we would have added?
Full player character animations.
Four complete soundtracks that never made it.
I mean, it's worth noting that Ether 1 is actually called Ether 1 because it was part 1 of 3 games. This Ether 1 was supposed to be 3 times as big as it is, and we just reduced the scope of it. That's why it's called Ether 1.
But at the same time, we reduced, but at the same time, like what we were going to split into 2 games or 3, we actually combined into 1. So like we just decided that.
Because we'd already spoke about it being Ether 1, we couldn't then change it to something else.
No, it didn't. Like the second and third bits didn't go into the first one. The first one then expanded even more.
Yeah, we took a big idea, chopped it into 3 parts, but then that first idea needed to be fleshed out to be like its experience, and it ended up being a lot bigger, and then it was a big enough game.
Yeah, there was like themes for each section of Ether. So this one was themed around loss, and so we actually built the whole game around loss, and then one was hope. I can't remember what the third one was. But yeah, Ether 1 got its name because it literally got cut in a third.
One thing with the map design that we went for, could you look out over the water a sec, James?
Yeah.
Like, to the left. So the lighthouse is such a pivotal point in the game, like really important focal points. So we made sure when we built certain pathways and alleyways that you'd always see it in the distance, like it was foreshadowing the rest of the game. And
you can literally always see it, unless you're in mines, like you can literally always see the lighthouse from every level. Like it's never not.
We are figuring out what the game is, which we didn't have big GDDs and design documents. It wasn't all planned out. It was very organic. The process. I think the vision very much was kind of the heart was there from the beginning. But yeah, as we're kind of like moving forward, bringing new people on board and kind of the team kind of growing over time, building that identity of what White Paper was, But with that, the game kind of changed and evolved over time, and possibly not the way, like as a professional 13 years down the line, that's not probably how I would run a production now necessarily, but I think it, is kind of the genesis of something new. It was probably the only real way that it could have happened.
Very quickly, we were able to get funding, which was it was almost like a loan. It was £25,000, but we had to pay it back. But it also allowed us to hire a programmer called Dave Smith. It was good to have him on the team because we didn't have any programmers. Unreal is known for its visual scripting system, so you can very easily prototype ideas just as a designer. So I was just prototyping these mechanics and ideas for Ether 1. With Dave Smith coming on the team, it allowed us to then start building a stronger foundation, a bigger framework for actually releasing something more commercial in nature.
Just looking at like assets, obviously things are quite low poly in this game. It also came from the fact that myself and James were students at the time as well, and we wanted to have something kind of low poly and stylized that a small art team could produce. But when you see something like this, like we could have had a little bit more shape to everything. But I think it's got a charm to it, definitely.
I think one of the lines that Jean says later, because she says random lines, I think she goes, "Why are all the circles made of 5 sides or something like that?" I think I put a couple of troll lines in there for you.
One thing I really loved about Ether 1 was the case and what it provided for the player, like a place to reflect on everything, and then like an inventory system that I thought was quite unique at the time.
The first inception of Ether 1 was an action platformer. Actually, do you remember that first harbour?
The crane and everything.
We had like platforming elements where we'd jump on different items to try and get up to the top of the cliff, for example. And a lot of it came from the constraints of UDK as well. But then when Dave was able to join, we kind of then just built upon all the mechanics that were already kind of prototypes, really, didn't we? So it was never really that we wanted to change the direction or anything like that.
And even and as far as like the story and all that, like it went through so many things.
Yeah,
it was much
yeah.
more
Like 4 or
sci-fi at the
5.
beginning.
I first heard of Ether 1, they put a trailer out, probably like sort of in the middle of 2012, so the very first trailer for it. The tone of the game was actually quite different. It was very sort of mystery-ish in terms of it showed off like an early version of the harbour at night, lots of like fog and mist around, and then there were these like weird QR codes, and you could obviously scan the QR code on your phone and it would take you to the website, and that like really intrigued me. Like I was always a big fan of things like the TV show Lost. I was a big fan of the mystique and the intrigue and like little things like scribbles on walls and things that can like get your mind turning. I really like that sort of thing. Ether 1 and White Paper Games were already like, in fact it was actually called Ether back then, not Ether 1. It was already on my radar. And then Pete and Ben came to the graduate show when I was at uni, and I had my final year project there, which I'd been doing in UDK as well. I learned a lot doing that, and I tackled lots of different things, and I think that sort of maybe made Pete and Ben think, well, maybe, you know, Dave could join us and sort of tackle the things that we want to do. So yeah, I think they put up the job posting like a couple of months after that, and then yeah, I just did a little code test for them and jumped on the team, and I think within a few months I was living in Manchester and turning up here every day.
There's a character called Sebastian who was out to get you kind of thing. And Phyllis actually changed to be a representation of a real lady from the world called Naomi Fell, and she was actually doing validation therapy, which is what the game's about, and a lot of the ideas about how dementia is being treated is from a real life case. And when we watched that video of her doing the treatment to this patient using like perfume and other items and things, and then watching them come out of the dementia, I'm getting like hair tingles. Like I was looking at the screen, bawling my eyes out. Like this thing's like, whoa.
Yeah, it was dementia with Lewy bodies, wasn't it? That
Exactly.
we decided to focus on.
Yeah, so a very specific type of dementia, and in the game we've got these kind of ether rocks, we call them. They're actually the shape of a Lewy body. Do you remember? Yeah. So that's the shape of what happens inside somebody's brain when these splits happen, and it's really, really damaging to the brain tissue. And we're destroying the rocks in the game at several stages, and that's actually trying to destroy the dementia in the brain. And one of the side effects of the dementia with Lewy bodies was hallucinations and seeing strong, vivid images of the colours red and blue, seeing literally people as blue or people as red, and having those kind of hallucinations. And that's why the rocks are blue, and that's why the ribbons are red, and it's so that colour theme going through the game. So there was a lot of, once we'd really started to research the subject and go, okay, that is the game we're making, like it all started to go in.
I remember with the ribbon, I don't know who made a concept, but there was a concept of the ribbon and being ink flying into the world.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're crazy.
What
we just didn't know what to do. Like, we didn't know how to do anything like this.
What we
so
did
it's
do,
lucky
though-
that we ended up with this. Like, actually, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, that's
It's awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
What we did do though is you clicked the ribbon and then it flowed off and it followed a spline and it took you to a puzzle location or something. For a short time that was in. You click it and it goes all around the world and that, but you could lose it.
And like, this must have been like one of the first particle systems I ever did. Like, the first kind of effect, because it even has the ribbon has an effect going in, yeah. And then one thing that we couldn't get in UE4 quite easily is like the distortion. Like when you click this, there's like a distortion ring, and in UE4 I just couldn't do it as well because I wasn't as familiar with the refraction method. See that like wobble.
You found one. A memory fragment. Good work.
Ether 1 didn't really take its form until we moved into this studio space, and people like NJ and James and OJ came on board, and then really all of those big brains coming together and all that creativity really started forming into what it turned into today.